And it's in the Bible. I don't know what it says in English translation. It's Yom Teruah. It's day of blowing. It's day of blowing, and basically it says you're supposed to hear the sound of the blowing. The blowing. Now, because it says the sound of the blowing, the day of the blowing, it is assumed he didn't mean the silver trumpets that marks every month. So he must mean the horn of an antelope instead of a silver trumpet. If you read the TLV, we put shofars in parentheses because we think that's what God meant. And we use the horn of an antelope because if you use a cow's horn, you might remind God of the golden calf. So we don't want to blow a cow's horn and remind God of the golden calf. We use an antelope horn. The antelope that has the who has a small one? I only have big ones up here. That one is probably, these are Israeli. That's Israeli antelope. These are African antelopes. They grow them bigger down there. But that's the two different. Yeah, the short ones without the twist. That's usually something out of the. Where did David hid from Saul down in the oasis in Gedi? I think they call them ibex down there. Ibex. They're smaller goats, antelopes. They run all over the place down there where David hid from Saul in the oasis of the desert. And I said the African antelopes are bigger. They have prettier horns. So that's where we get them. Can anyone blow a shofar that doesn't have one? Because I got a couple of them up here. A shofar. Is there anyone who can blow a shofar that doesn't have one? Just grab one of these. Hey, Michael, take one. Here's one for you. And here's one for you, my dear. I'll use it for a cane to get over to you. And I'm assuming by the time we get to Yom Kippur, we'll do some liturgy. We are working on it. I'm worried about liturgy because to me, liturgy is liturgy. God looks at our heart. He doesn't care how well we pronounce the liturgy or whether we hit the notes right and stuff. I was at church Sunday. And at the end of the service, they said, get up and do the benediction. I said, the Aaronic benediction? We don't know. And then I thought, okay, yeah, let me do it. And I had to chant it because if I start saying it, I'll stumble over it. So I did, and I think and then I was trying to add, in the name of Yeshua, the Prince of Peace. And so I did the Hebrew of the Aaronic benediction. Then I said, B'Shem Yeshua, Mishikeno, Sar Shalom. But I stumbled over that because I was going from Hebrew to English, English to Hebrew. And I'm like everybody else. I only do it. I've done a lot, but I don't always get it right. But that's okay. God doesn't worry about us getting it correct. God looks at our heart. God looks at our heart. If God could bless you with a good voice, mazel tov. Some of us He didn't. But because of the reality of we don't have an order of service, several were over at the house. Property seems like most of the day. And I went home and fell asleep. So this is not, I'm not well prepared for this. But I've been thinking about it a lot. And I'm going to say the traditional blessing. Because this is something God instructed us to do. And we are privileged to get to do it. And it's Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvah v'tzivenu l'shmo kol shofar. We are here to hear the voice of the shofar. And it's blessed are you, Lord God, King of the universe, who has sanctified His commandments and instructed us to hear the sound of the shofar. So when I say one shofar, many shofarot, just blow away. Any sounds you can get out of them is fine. Everyone, get it on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Very, very good. How many of you heard the shofar? You have been obedient to God's instruction. You can go home now. I'm going to call it every now and then, just for the fun of it. This is the day of blowing, hearing the blowing. It's like, let's blow and let's hear the blow. That's all we're going to do. I just thought it might be interesting to go through some traditional Jewish concepts of life in general. The challah of Yom of Rosh Hashanah is round. The only time it changes is Shavuot, where you have to use a pound of flour. So they're much longer regular challah, but the challah is round to remind you of the creation of the world. And I want you to think about that, because I want to go down a trail just as much as I can flow with this. You understand, God did not have to create the world round. He didn't have to. You understand that. For a long time, they said the world was flat. They didn't, although the Bible is very clear, it's a circle. And you deal with that. And so, and I forgot several things, and I didn't look anything up because I fell asleep. So I'm going to trust your memory like I trust my own. So, and I'm going to do some things in as simple and clear as ways as can. Before anything's created, you had God. Before there was anything, there was God. There has always been a God. Before he created, there was no time, because God created time at the beginning of creation. If you remember, in the beginning he created, and there was evening and morning the first day. It's real fun when you deal with that, because he didn't create the sun and moon and stars till day 4, so how long did that last? But God created. So you had God. Let me know if this let me see if we have something to write. That one won't. Let's try this one. Almost. Can you see it in the back? Is that too light? We do what we do. I'll see if I can find different color work. You had God. God existed in a plurality. He existed in a plurality. The names of God are in plural. Sometimes masculine, sometimes feminine, but always talked about in a plurality. Always a plurality. It's Elohim. It's not, it's Adonai. It's not Adon. His names are all in plural, and he often refers to himself, and he gives some, even in creation, he gives some indication, depending on how you look at things. In English, Bereshit bara, in the beginning created God the heavens and earth, and God said. Okay? Now, if you don't know anything about historical understanding, God doesn't have to speak to get something done. Right? He's God. He could think it into existence. The traditional translation of understanding of that allegory is God, through the Messiah, created. The Messiah is the speaking of God. In other words, the traditional English is Messiah is the agent of creation. Now, he's part of God, but God spoke. God, through the Messiah, said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And as it goes down, it does talk very clearly of the, it doesn't translate at all, but basically the Ruach shaking. Different translations say hovering. The Hebrew is more like a violent shaking over the face of the abyss. I'm just thinking the Hebrew. I don't know what it says in English. So you have clearly the Son. You have, from the traditional understanding, you have the Creator God, agent of Messiah, with the breath of God shaking. That's where Christianity comes up with the concept of Trinity. If you believe in a Trinity, good for you. I'm not saying there is a Trinity. I'm saying that's a traditional modern translation, because I don't know what you do with the seven spirits of God. All we know, there's a plurality there. There's very clearly a plurality, but the plurality is one. It is echad, not an absolute one. 4 things in the Bible are called echad. God is echad. Adonai Eloheinu Adonai echad. God is one. A husband and wife become bishkol echad, one flesh. In Shoftim, in Judges, all of Israel gathers as echad, as one. And when we went in, the spies went into the land of promise, Joshua and Caleb carried out echad, a pot of grapes. That's only 4 things in the Bible called echad. Echad is a plurality of one. Now, I could say I have one of these, but I can't say I have one of these unless you count the whole plurality as one, which it is. And if you take the Messiah from here to here, as he walks among us, he's still God and he's still part, you know. So just that's part of the reality. And I just think it's important to grasp the allegorical concepts. God didn't have to do it that way. He didn't have to do anything the way he did it. But I think he revealed himself in that unique oneness. And I believe it's circular, because throughout the rest of history you see the circles. I'm talking. There's a book out called The Circle Maker that some Christian wrote. I think it was Christian. You know, it's the same thing, because God there's circles all through the Bible. Not as much as there is salt, but there is circles. And so, in the beginning, God created. And without getting into, I want to jump around a little bit, just accept that, because I want to keep it as simple as I can. Not everybody's used to my, I can teach meter. I could try to teach gently. I'm trying to teach gently. But he created the earth. Okay? He made the earth a circle. All right? He separated the water from ha'aretz. The aretz is the earth. Eretz is land. Aretz is earth. And he created the sun, the moon, and the stars, among other things. To keep it simple, we'll just use our universe. There are multiple universes out there, as far as we can measure. And what are they all doing? They're all circling around. They're all circling around. So he puts around, check that from being the earth to being the sun, because he created light. And the sun is a ball of fire in the air, right? It's round. Then he puts the earth, which is also round. And then he has circle and circle and circle. When I was young, there was one more planet than there is now. But they started counting different. And everything goes around in circles, right? Everything goes in circles, which is why I perceive the oneness of God as a circle. It's a unity. And he puts everything in order in a unity. Now, again, he didn't have to do it this way. I'm just talking about our universe, because as you go out, there are multiple universes, usually only around one major star, because our sun is just another star. But all the other stars out there, do they have planets around them? I don't know. God didn't say. He only told us about our part of creation. Now, I'm not saying he created life on another planet? I'm saying he doesn't say he did. He doesn't say he didn't. I don't know. I won't limit God. But I know what he told us. He told us about our creation. We're part of this part of his creation. But his creation is huge, but it's all circling around. It's all circling around. And I want you to see that. And what I want you to understand is that Rosh Hashanah, Yom Teruah, starts in the middle of what? A cycle of festivals. And it confuses people that aren't raised Jewish, because Passover seems to be the beginning of the year, but it is not. It is the beginning of months in the year, which is the seventh month. And so you go through this, you go, Passover, just using God's appointed times. We've done some extra things. And you go all the way, and now we're getting to the seventh month. So what do you have? You have Rosh Hashanah. So what is next besides the Shabbat? You have Yom Kippur. 5 days later, what do you have? Sukkot. 8 days later, what do you have? Shemini Atzeret. Everything. And so what do? We call it a cycle of festivals. A cycle of festivals. And that's just the way it is. It's another circle. A cycle of festivals. I think God is showing us something and teaching us something that has depth in his choice for how he reveals things. And so you have the plurality of God. You have our sun, which is a star that is round, on our planet, which is round, and all the other planets that go around our star. All of them are round, and they are going around our star. If you go out through the universe, you'll find another star with planets around it. And it's the same thing. That star is going to be a round ball of fire, and the planets are circling around it. You see that? See the circles, okay? Now, let's see how you can do shofarot. Shofarot. You don't have to be shy. We're here to hear the sound. For those of you making the sound, you're helping others. You can hear it, you're helping everybody else that doesn't do that hear the sound. And that's a mitzvah. It's a good deed. Now, I can go on a million trails on this, but I'm going to keep it simple. Because what I want you to see, one of the biggest all-encompassing things God gave us was salt. What's a circumcision called? What do you call a what? A Brit what? Milah. Brit Milah. What is Milah? Salt. A circumcision is a covenant of salt. Salt is Milah. Pepper is pilpul. So the covenant of Abraham is a covenant of salt. If you want to do a really fun word study, it's overwhelming. Salt holds everything together throughout the Bible. But the circles are all there. So I want you to see, and I'm going to keep this pretty basic. Am I blocking your sight over there? Can you see okay, Bacha, or am I blocking what I'm doing? Bacha? Am I blocking your sight when I turn around and draw? No. Okay, good. If you can see, everyone can see. God separated the water and the land. And what is the land? What is soil? It's a mineral. He created minerals. And that's what the land that he separated out is full of minerals. All right? Just, that's a simple thing. And so, A mineral is good in and of itself. A mineral, nothing wrong with minerals. It's not, but without a mineral, you can't have plants. All right? Because he brought forth plant after plant. And maybe I'll change colors if I can find some of these that are right, if it will help you. It helps I don't have notes and I don't know where I'm going, but it's just the Bible. So a plant comes up, okay? That's supposed to be green. That's a plant. The plant wouldn't be there if it couldn't draw from the mineral. The mineral is not alive. The plant has life. And the plant has life because it's drawing from the minerals. And the minerals have no life, but the minerals give life to the plant. You understand that? Is this simple enough for you? Then God creates critters. I don't have critters. I will see if we have a red critter. Just gives me a chance to think, am I missing any steps? But obviously a critter comes next. So I should have an artist. One of you guys, one of the Brownmans should do this for me. You have a critter comes over and eats the grass. A red cow or something. The red heifer. Well, it's not pure.
How do we know?
Because its last leg is shorter than the other ones.
It's an optical illusion.
Yeah. Now, the cow draws life from the plant that draws its life from the mineral. All right? And so what you are seeing is, in the concept, the way God created, and what he's showing us is he's starting a circle. Okay? Which is who we are. And what we are and what we are called into. So, you have a soil which has minerals but no life. It brings forth a plant that has life, is eaten by a critter that has a greater life. And then somebody comes along, eats the critter. I'm not missing it, am I? My wife says I'm not missing. That's a good sign. So, the mineral, which has no life, gives life to the plant, which has not much life, gives life to the critter that has more life, that is eaten by the man that has more life. And what is man supposed to do? He is supposed to, I don't know how many colors I have. He's supposed to, who created the earth. And so he could have simply spoke everything into being, and in the allegory of creation, the story of creation, it doesn't point out the step by step, right? He created, then he separated the water from the land, mayim from ha'aretz. There's the aretz, it is only minerals. Now, nothing wrong with minerals. We use minerals. Minerals are very important, but they are not, there's no life at all in a mineral, regardless of how much science we have today. And the mineral brings forth the plant which has life. Where does the plant get life from something that's lifeless? It's just God's plan and purpose. Without the land, you can't have the plant. Without the plant, you can't have the animal. Hey, Chris, without, the man comes along, eats the cow. And God then, the man's job is to connect with God. See, you have the connection here, the connection here, and the connection here. God chose in his own unique way that most of what you see is the same thing. See, if we didn't have the cow, the grass, and the minerals, we would have a hard life. And depending on, now God could have changed it. He could have just created us and we could have just worshiped him. But it is incumbent upon us to use the food that God gave us in the animals. Now we could also eat the plant. It's okay. Because there's life in both of those. And so we draw life from the animal. We draw life from the plant, but we don't eat dirt. Because there's no life in it. There's no life in it. But without the dirt, we wouldn't have anything else. And so if we really put it all together, he creates. From creation comes the plant. From the plant comes the animals. Comes us. Now we didn't all come from each other. God created each in its own thing. It's like the mineral had all this in it and would have pushed it out. No, God chose to create the plant. And when he created the critters, he had the plant for them to eat, which drew its life from the minerals that have no life. And then, irregardless of your theology and what you did, he created man. He didn't take man from any of these things. He created, just like he didn't take the minerals. He created the minerals. He created the grass. He created the critters. He created us. And then as we go through this cycle, we go back to God who created everything. And everything runs in that circle. Just like as we enter now into the 7th month, and we mark the beginning of the 7th month, Yom Teruah, which we call Rosh Hashanah, which is what we call it. God calls it Yom Teruah, the day of the blowing. And the next thing, if you are used to this, then the next thing is there's a Shabbat. That Shabbat is the Sabbath of return, because the Shabbat passed Rosh Hashanah before Yom Kippur. It's the Sabbath of return, because God gives the 7th month to get us focused on him again. The 7th day, focus on him again. The 7th year, focus on God again. Everything is to focus on God. Everything that we do. You hear this on the show where you think about God. You remember the Passover. I'm the God who brought you out of Egypt. Everything God circles, and everything we do is to take us back to God. Even in creation, God chose to do it in such a way. What's her name? Natalie? Natalia. We love kids, Chris. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But I want you to see this. Can you think of anything I missed? My wife understands this stuff. That's why I looked to her. But I want you to see that in the intricacy of God revealing his truth to us. An allegory is a picture, a story. It doesn't mean it's not true. It means he's showing us something. He's showing us something. He could have said, let the earth be created, populated, and it would have happened. He could have thought, let the earth be, he could have created the earth and just in one day, in one moment, in one thought, I think I'll just, yes, boom. And now we're all here. Everybody's here. But he goes step by step by step by step by step. And you start with the real basics: water and soil, water and land. Mayim ha'aretz. Separate out the aretz. The water is the source of life. For as we understand it in our creation, it's the source of life for everything. You have to have water, not just minerals. That's another story, though, because it's part of this circle. It's part of this circle. And anytime you're dealing with anything on Rosh Hashanah, hence the round challah. Everything is round. Just accept. It shows a cycle that all starts with God, ends with God. He created the cycle. He created the circle of everything. The week, the weekly Shabbat, right? The seventh day of the week. Now, people change it to other days because they choose to in their traditions. The Bible says he worked for 6 days and then he rested and sanctified the Sabbath and called it holy. Other people say, well, I want to call another day holy. Calls Shabbat holy. Christians call Sunday holy. Muslims call Friday holy. And the reality is God called Shabbat holy. And so when you get to Shabbat, you take a day off. And then what do? At the end of Shabbat, you enter into Havdalah. And the tradition is you separate the holy and the profane. The profane is what we do every day. If you don't know what Havdalah is, don't worry about it. The Hebrew is you separate the holy and the profane because Shabbat is holy and you're into the week which is profane. And you're going to work for 6 days. But then, back to Shabbat. And what does Shabbat say? God created. You see, every time, the highest holy day of the year is the weekly Shabbat, according to Leviticus 23. The highest holy day of the year is the weekly Shabbat, because that marks God as creator. And he made Passover the first month of the year because he's the God who brought us out of Egypt, because he gave us the Torah when we came out of Egypt. And he took us out of Egypt because for the same reason. Right? God created, and out of all the people in the world, he chose our father, Abraham. Right? God chose Avram, when he called him, Ur of the Chaldeans, Iraq, today. And he said, I'm going to make of you a great nation. A great nation. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the patriarchs, everything else. In his lineage comes even the Messiah, who is part of the Godhead, who is the agent of creation. Turns back to everything comes to God. And so when we recognize creation, when we look at the Jewish people, and the Jewish people were supposed to be what? A light to all the nations. We are supposed to read all the nations. Now, we didn't do a good job of that. But everybody in the Bible comes from that same source, and everything circles around. And God, in his choice, chose our Messiah to be born of the lineage of David. He did that because he said he would. He's a part of that cycle of relationship that we have. And the whole reason that we exist is he brought us out of Egypt. We became his people when we came out of Egypt. When we came out of Egypt, everybody written about in the Torah had been dead for centuries, right? We went down to Egypt for 300 years. That's a long time. That's longer than the United States has been around. But when he brought us out, he said, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt. Because if he didn't bring us out of Egypt, we are not his people. If we are not his people, he can't continue the circles in order for the Messiah to come to redeem the world. Now all the world comes into him. Even if you don't believe in God and you don't believe in the Messiah, you're still in the cycle of creation. Still in the cycle. You talk to atheists. Oh, we've always been here. We evolved. And I said, why don't we stop evolving when we got here? And if God did evolve, we came from monkeys, why are there still monkeys? I asked these questions, and here's the reality. No, it has to be in the circle. It has to be in the circle. We begin the 7th month, set apart as is the 7th day. set apart as the seventh year. And on this first day, we hear the sound of the shofar. Shofarot. 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 Come on, Michaeline. You could take this all kind of depths. Do you understand Messiah didn't have to be born as a baby? You know, Miriam had to change his diaper type kind of thing. He could have walked out of the desert. He could have come down out of the sky. He certainly left that way, and he's coming back that way. But even in the Messiah's coming and returning, where did he leave from? When he left, where did he leave from? The Mount of Olives. Where is he coming back to? Why? Same way he went up, he'll come back. The Shekinah at the time of the captivity. It's very clear from Ezekiel that when God was going to allow the Babylonians to destroy a temple, the Shekinah, the manifest presence of God in the holy place, for those of you who've been to Jerusalem, stepped outside the holy place, went to the goat shut by the Muslims, went down through the Kidron Valley, up to the Mount of Olives, and went up. Okay? So you have that move of the manifest presence of God, the Shekinah. Christians call it Shekinah, glory. Shekinah means glory. It's the glory, manifest presence of God. It's okay if you say that. It's like calling the Sahara desert the Sahara desert. Sahara is desert. It's just saying the desert. It's just terminology. And so when Messiah made his triumphal entry from, where did he make it from? Mount of Olives. Thank you. Glad somebody pays attention. Why? Because that's the key. The Mount of Olives to God. Back. You have to have that always. It starts in the Holy of Holies. That's what it's called. The Holy Holies. The Holy Holies. Down and up and back and back and back. It's the only way it can go. God shows us. You've got to have that movement. He chose it that way. And so you have the same thing. It's going to circle. He had to make a triumphal entry from the Mount of Olives, Jerusalem, because it's the Shekinah, the manifest presence of God, going up and then coming back. And then we left. He went up that way, and he will come back that way. You've got to have always that movement. God chose that to show us how intricate his creation is, which is why a marriage is simply about, in the garden, if I was Ish and God took out Ishi, which makes a little bit more sense in Hebrew than man and woman, I am Ish, my bride is Ishi. We become Echad when we get together. We are Echad. We are B'shkol Echad, like God is Echad. We are Echad. We have to have that unit. It's not good for man to be alone. Never says it's not good for a woman to be alone, because a woman is complete. A man is missing something. With traditional Jewish thought, by the way. I got a hole in me. Because God took Ishi out of Ish. So all Ish are incomplete. Ishi is complete because there's nothing missing. But I am incomplete without completing that circle and going back to where I started in the Garden of Eden. And what are we doing as a people? We're going all through history just to get back to the Garden of Eden. Do you understand that? We've been alive, depending on how you count, several thousand years. I don't want to get into that because I know better than to try to pinpoint what God doesn't say clearly. But we, in creation, we started in the garden, and we are simply trying to get back to the garden. And we get back to the garden, it'll be, in my opinion, Shabbat. It'll be Shabbat. Why? Because it's the circle. Shabbat is the goal of God to enter into his rest, which is why he says, well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the rest, which means go back to Shabbat, go back to the garden where I dwell in your midst. Does that make sense to you? Grasp that, have fun with that, play with all you want. Shofarot. Shofarot. Blow away. Blow away. Well, we get organized to give you a chance to give back to God. We do this every festival because it says it's not good for you to appear before God empty-handed. We want to give you a chance to give. You don't have to give. Some of us aren't ready to give. It's okay. But as they find the baskets, the envelopes, and people try to figure out where we hid things and get them, let's sound the shofar out one more time. I'm waiting to see if they can find what we need to give an offering. I don't know where anything is hidden. And I also want to give compliments to the house of prayer that go all their way to let us have this time on the special feast of God, because our calendar is totally different than the Christian calendar. And they do all they can to move their services around so we can get together on Wednesday night. This is Wednesday night. And Friday night in 10 days. We have one. Well, I don't know where. You're the only one who found something. Do we have what we need, Cheryl? Do we have what we need? And let's just, this is a free will offering. If you're not ready, don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. But, you know, you can't outgive God. That's one of those odd things. God blesses us, and he's giving me back 10%. Why? Circle, 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 circle. And I know people, I can't afford to give 10%. Say, well, your 100% will be worth about 90% then. If I give 10%, he said your 90% will be worth 100% then. He blesses those of us who believe in that. I'm among those who believe in that. So if you want an envelope be properly for cash donation, raise your hand as they are still trying to get things. By the way, Chris, there are speech language pathologists in here that appreciate you protect your daughter's ears. It's very much appreciated. We have people who understand these things, who are educated in that realm. So the ushers are now loaded and ready for bearer. If you want to get an envelope, please do so. While they're doing this, does anyone have any questions, comments, or accusations? Because we're killing time. I'm stalling. Anyone have any questions, comments, or accusations? I want to say thank you for all of you going out to the prison tomorrow. Take care of Beit Yeshua. Excellent work to get us in there. And take care of the guys. They will be thrilled. They are thrilled when they see us out there. So, Abba Bashanim, we thank you for sustaining us and bringing in this to the season with a new understanding. May this 7th month truly be special to us. May we draw closer to you. And in our closeness to you, may you pour out blessing into our lives. And I pray a blessing on everybody in your families that are gathered here on this special day. And we give God all the glory through Yeshua. Amen and amen. Last chance to ask a question. We're not having ONEG. We can't use the whole building on special days. Go ahead, Michael.
The cycle of the soil and plants and the animals. What about I say that at the end the serpent will eat soil? Has something to do with that?
No, he doesn't eat soil. He's going to crawl on his belly. Anybody else? Michaeline, ask me a question. This is a test to see if you can ask a question. Just so you know, we are limping through the High Holy Days. We're having some issues with our property, and we may be doing some special work parties Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Do we just need a little manpower to do some moving around? If you're interested, talk to Sylvia. Yeah, this Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. We've been over there every day.
I understood from when I was reading about Rosh Hashanah, I was reading that in Israel, they only blow the trumpet,
Silver trumpet.
no, that they were talking about the only time that people blow the trumpet is that 1 month, this 1 month.
No,
And is that
no,
correct?
no, it's not correct. You blow the trumpet at the beginning of every month, and you also use the signals to the army. Signals to the army. No problem. Anybody else? Again, we don't have the whole building because we ask for they call this their prayer room. We call it our sanctuary, and we pray blessings on the Sarasota House of Prayer for letting us be here and use this. There's not a lot of people willing to do that for us, and it gave us a home while we try to get the property up and running. Be blessed, everybody. The next service is Saturday morning. It's the Sabbath of Return, Shabbat Shavah, the Sabbath of Return, because it's during the days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Be blessed, everybody. Yeah, blow the shofar again if you want. One last chance to obey God's instructions. Everybody be blessed. Safe journeys home.